one of the things we're doing in this area is we have, where we've grazed, we did put hay down because we had so much ice and so much snow. But what they would do is they would literally dig down through the snow and they would get to the green grass. But where we put the hay, of course, it wasn't as much of them digging down through it, but they would still dig down through the hay some. But I wanted to give you kind of an idea of what we're looking at. You can see this field has been grazed over pretty well. We got, come up on this little hilltop here, and you can look down. Now this is where we have unrolled hay. If you notice the broom sage that is right over there on the other side, it was just as thick over here. We just recently took this farm over, and this is the first year that we've actually had cattle on here. So we have in the past cut hay off of this ground. What we're doing now is we're trying to get the ground to where it's basically being rejuvenated, because when you remove hay from the ground, you remove carbon and you remove a lot of the nutrients. So by unrolling this hay, you're doing a couple things. You're reseeding, which that's always real good. Any of the seed that's in the hay, the cattle are going to trample down, and that'll get the grass growing. You're adding more carbon to the ground. That in turn makes the ground more fertile. But where this hay was unrolled, just to give you an idea, there's still,
you can see the green grass in here. There's plenty of it here. It's just been trampled down. And eventually, as the ground dries up again, it's going to hopefully pop back up. And of course, when green grass starts growing this spring, we'll be in good shape, we think. This is a first time on this farm, and so we've got a lot to learn. We've got good start. The problem we have is the sagebrush, sage grass. It's really thick here. So I've made an inquiry as to how we can handle this without having to lime it.
because ideally we want to take as little money as possible to restore the ground back. That way it keeps the profit margin on the cattle as good as what we can possibly keep it. And it also keeps money in our banking account. And anybody that runs cattle knows it's not always cheap. But if you do it the way God intended, which is have them eat grass and eat stockpile grass and do it smart, you can make money doing this. It just takes a little bit of time. And when you have a place that not really has been neglected, but the previous person that used to run cattle on this place really overgrazed it, and they never did anything with it. And then it has sat idle for approximately 4 years, and then we have cut hay off of it for 3 years. And this is the first year that we were able to actually put cattle on it. So now we're slowly going to be bringing this land back into good pasture, and diminish, or not diminish, but greatly decrease the amount of hay that we have to cut every year in order to keep our cattle. For instances like we had with this freezing rain, where we had to put hay down because they would walk into the field and they would break it off right flush with the ground. So, but just looking around, I mean, you can see the areas that they've been. So it'll be interesting to see how this field does bound back. This hilltop did not have a whole lot of actual fescue grass on it. Johnson grass grows up in this area really well, and there's also cerisa grows in this area, and there was one other, the name of it is actually slipping me right now, but it's another grass. It's one of the native grasses. It's like the broom sage, but it has a little more nutritional value to it. But like I had showed earlier, that area over there is where they had been before. So
Have you shown over here where they just grazed for a short period?
Yeah, they did short periods of grazing over here. And it's more defined where we have the, where we unroll the hay. You're able to see it a lot better. So. But you can see right down through here, you can actually see the individual tracks that we had actually done the hay down. There was one. You can see the broom sage still standing.
Show this right here.
And then here's another area where it came down.
How much green there
But
is.
there's a lot of green grass that is still left. This is one of the places that there was more because they did not graze this field as much. That's one of the things we wanted to do, is leave the cattle as full as possible, but also leave as much of the grass as we can so it actually rejuvenates faster. The area that we had looked at earlier, you noticed it was eaten down a lot lower, so it will come back, but it has to regenerate from the roots. Where this that still has the green leaf showing, it'll be able to use the sun to get its energy to start coming back.
Over here where they just grazed for overnight, actually. There's a lot of grass left in it.
And you can see the height of the grass that's in this area. I mean, it's good.
There's what they have an opportunity to eat on the stockpile that we have throughout this farm. It's probably a good 10 to 12 inches high and a lot of green in it, which is giving them the opportunity to moisten up their bowel movement enough to make a good patty.
As you can see, this patty right here,
a little dry.
that's what you don't want to see. And we can get up here to where there's some. This is a little bit better. It's got a little more moisture to it. But basically, you want it to almost look like where it's a. Here you go. Here's a perfect one. It has a nice little divot right in the center. That's for poop. That's a pretty pile of poop.
That's the kind of poop that makes you smile.
Yeah, it's a poopy.
There's another one. So
One of the big benefits from this is once the ground thaws and starts to warm up, worms that are in this area are going to come up into here. The worms also increase the fertility of the ground by all the castings that they leave behind, which basically is worm poop. But
pH.
it brings the pH level back to where the ground needs to be, so it takes the acidity actually out of the ground. And so earthworms are a wonderful thing. One thing we don't do is we are not using ivermectin or any type of dewormer on the cattle. If our cattle start showing that they are wormy, they're gone. We get rid of them. We're not going to have those. We want our cattle to be healthy as they can be. The only time they get antibiotics is if they actually hurt themselves, which occasionally that does happen. You have one step in a hole and will actually hurt its leg. And you have to, at that point, give a little bit. But we do our best to never give it to them, if at all possible, because we want these cattle natural, and we want these cattle to produce us money so we can keep doing this, because the profit margin, it is small with cattle, but it is very possible to do it and make a good living doing it.
we don't use any insecticides either. You may have noticed when I've been filming the last 2 or 3 days, an occasional calf that will have maybe a little bare spot on the neck. That indicates there's probably a small amount of lice on them. The first good rain we get in the spring will wash them off, and that'll be the end of it. So we don't worry about insecticides, and we certainly don't want to use anything like ivermectin, anything that will destroy the worms and the
Microbes of the soil.
microflora in the ground, in the soil, particularly your mycorrhizal fungi. They are very susceptible to any chemical. And the mycorrhizal fungi are the organisms that do produce your aggregate soil. And your aggregate soil is the thing that will allow you to accumulate the moisture that falls in rainfall and keep it from washing off. So, and unfortunately, you have to replenish that about every month. I think about 3 to 4 weeks is as long as an aggregate lasts. So it's something that has to be continually reproduced, and that the mycorrhizal fungi are primarily responsible for that. So they are, if there's a microorganism that's the critical one in pastures, it is the mycorrhizal fungi. So we're doing everything we can to keep from destroying that. Anytime you put a spade, a plow, a disc, anything in that soil and break it up, you have destroyed your mycorrhizal fungi, because they are filaments that travel sometimes yards, even as much as 100 feet or more out from their main body. And when you run any kind of a soil cutting tool through it, then you're destroying, and it has to regenerate. So we're doing everything we can not to affect the mycorrhizal fungi, which will lead to better soil fertility, which will lead to better grass, which will lead to happy cows, which leads to good protein on your table.
Which leads to money in your pocket, which makes me and him very happy. The other thing, the fungi that he's referring to make it in simple terms, because I know the very first time I ever heard that, I thought, okay, that's wonderful. What is it? Well, it's a way for the plants to be able to communicate with each other. In other words, they actually send that signal from one plant to the next plant to the next plant. And by bringing that disc or through the ground, you're actually cutting that. So it would be like cutting a wire that a radio transmission would go through. So that's what we have right now. All right, well, we'll go over and take a look at the cattle. All right, we'll walk over here where the cattle are. And as you can see, they are all very happy and content. Yes, it's a nice warm day, as you notice. The one standing right there sitting chewing his cud. That just means they're happy and they're full and they're glad to be. Don't get shocked by the electric fence. But this is the new ground that we moved them into. You can see the way it is standing versus what we had just left. Now they walked, the path I'm walking on is where they walked into the field this morning. As you can see, there's quite a bit of grass in here. Lots and lots of green grass, and it's good. It's got a good nutrient base to it, and this is basically it's just like having a roll of hay that's already on the ground that never got cut. That's the advantage of stockpiling it.
The reason it's over like it is right now is that 9 inches of snow weighted it down. Once it dries, it's going to fluff back up again. As you can see, there's a lot of grass, a lot of green in it. Really good for them.
And everybody's really happy, and they're enjoying the warmer weather as much as we are. Like I said earlier, I know for all you folks that are up north or out west, the snow we had is nothing. But like I said earlier, in western Kentucky, that's a lot of snow. And so with that, happy cows laying down, I believe we'll call this a day. Have a good one.
See you.
And on a side note, one thing we did forget to say is if you like this or you find this information valuable, hit that little subscribe button and hit that bell, and it'll notify you whenever we have new videos that are coming out. Also, give us a thumbs up.
Yes, by all means, hit the like button and give us, hello. hit the like button and give us a like on it so we know that the information we're giving is helping you. That way we know more about what to put in the next video, which we hope to try to open up this to people in Kentucky. There are not many South Pole producers in Kentucky, and our objective is to spread this breed as much as we can, because there's just not a better breed anywhere.
So hit like and hit subscribe. Have a good day.